video in no way contains any form of solicitation, endorsement, or promotion of third-party applications for Raid Shadow Legends. I am in no way, by having an interview with these three people, suggesting you should go and download their products. Instead, what I'm doing is having an interview with third-party application devs and asking hard questions like, how can we trust you? How is accounts safe? Where exactly is the largest issue in your technical application of third-party design? And other questions related to the job they do related to Raid Shadow Legends. I personally do not use third-party applications unless we're talking about my sponsor BlueStacks, and we all know the auto-clicker has openly been stated to be accepted by Plarium. This is my stance on third-party applications. People know this. However, with that in mind, I would like to thank the gentleman in question on the following video for being extremely transparent, even in the face of some aggressive line of questioning. I appreciate their time and transparency, and you as audience members, who I know appreciate that as well, should give the utmost respect to the gentleman in question for giving their time and efforts to be as transparent and vulnerable as this was recorded live. With that being said, thank you for watching this video, and let us begin the interview. Starting pal, the first person, let's have you up. Voltaic, how are you doing, my friend? Would you like to introduce yourself to the audience today?
Like you said, I'm Voltaic, creator of the RAIDEXTRACTOR tool, which you can see up there somewhere. Nice to be on here.
Well, it is lovely to have you on here as well. And just for the people who aren't familiar with the RAIDEXTRACTOR tool, would you mind just giving us a general couple, sentence synopsis here of what exactly your tool is designed to do?
Sure. So the gist of what my tool is there for is to pull data out so that other tool developers don't have to worry about how to get data out of RAID. They can just import a file and start to work with the data. That way their tool can just focus on whatever they're good at, and then I don't have to make things look pretty for people because I'm terrible at that.
Excellent. So, thank you so much. And let's move on to the next person here. We have Pow CM Marabate. I got it right?
Yeah. Perfect. Yep.
All right. Would you like to do basically the same thing we just did with our friend Voltaic? I'm gonna every time, because now I have the mentor in my head. I gotta get it right every time.
So yeah, okay. I'm Chris. I created raidchamps.com. Great site for finding like what champ good. I have Hell Hades, Chosen, and Ayumi Loves ratings all pumped into there, and then I get a total rating based on all three of them. And then yeah, I'm one of the people that takes full advantage of Luke's RAIDEXTRACTOR tool at a My Champs page where you can search through all your champs and filter them, and then click on them and see all the gear they have and all that. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. And last but not least, we have Daniel. How are you doing, Daniel, a.k.a. Callus? Our good friend from the Raid Toolkit. And that's one of the applications I have seen. I'm kind of a casual, a young boomer is what I think, right? And I don't use too many of the tools. I use the one that I have my sponsor with, BlueStacks, right? Obviously, I promote that. But other than that, I'm not really too familiar with these. So a lot of the questions are going to be coming from the point of view of somebody that's just really kind of new to it as well. But the toolkit I've seen from my friend, I think Chofly Elite, aka Chosen, I believe uses your toolkit as well. So would you mind giving us just a little bit of a basic rundown of yourself too?
Yeah, so I'm Callus. I do, the basic approach I take is pretty similar to Luke, which is kind of wanting to expose the data to anyone who wants to use it, but also kind of building a little bit of a UI around it. So initially, kind of the big thing that came out in Raid Toolkit, which got promptly nerfed, was the mercy tracking, which unfortunately is no more, at least at this point. But it still functions as a way to kind of manage and view your account, see all your champions, somewhat similar to C-Marabate's stuff. And kind of my direction moving forward is kind of just providing it as a platform for more things to be built on top of it. So starting to work with some other tool devs and things like that.
Okay. And so that's good because that's going to lead into some of the questions we have a little bit further into the interview, because I've shown all the questions beforehand and they've agreed to answer them. And it's going to be, we're going to do the most of the kind of annoying ones that they've more than likely answered the majority of the times over and over and over again to get out of the way, as I'm sure that will alleviate a lot of the YouTube comments we will get from this video. And then we'll move into some more technical and fun ones that will probably be a little bit more interesting for all of us to discuss. So we're going to get through those now, and I'm going to address these not in particular to one of you guys, but it's sort of a roundtable discussion. So you guys are free at any time to cut me off in the middle of a question, or if you have a point, it's a conversation, not a drilling here. So the first and foremost kind of question that I've got from everybody is, more or less, if I break it down, how can the RAID devs, meaning you guys, be trusted by the general populace as developers of a third-party application that's not officially sanctioned by Plarium? You know me, I'm not a huge Plarium lover, definitely not one of their biggest advocates, so you don't have to explain it to me. But to the people that maybe don't know you guys and are wondering, how can we answer that question for them?
I think I'm going to jump in here first, because mine's the easiest one to answer. And I'm sure Callus will have another good explanation. But when it comes to a tool like mine's open source, right? So if you ever think that the tool's doing something weird, you can just go look at it. All the code's up on GitHub. It's not to say that if it's not open source, it's not safe, but that's kind of your first line of defense. And obviously Callus is laughing at that because, that's the part he'll have to answer to. There's some other layers of tools, and I'm sure we can get into that later. But a lot of our tools are unsigned because Windows wants us to pay for a license, and a lot of those code signing licenses are sometimes hundreds of dollars. So we can get into that later. But I'll let Callus take it from here because I'm sure he's the next good one to answer.
Okay, thanks for jumping right in. How could we answer that question then that he brought up for us previously?
Yeah, so thanks for throwing me right under the bus.
It's all in good fun.
Oh, yeah, no, it's all good. Kind of similarly, RAID Toolkit is a little different from the RAID Extractor tool because it is not at least fully open source. And that's been a topic of a lot of debate, actually, because the core functionality of what the tool does right now, I don't really have a problem sharing that part of it. But a big part of it, and this gets into some of the technical stuff we might get into later, but is the way the tool works is it has access to a lot more than what you see. And when releasing that code, you have to be concerned about whether somebody else might take that code and use it for some malicious purpose, whether it be cheating or hacking accounts or whatever the case may be. So it's something that I still want to do. I want to figure out a way to make this open source. Pieces of it actually are out there in open source now, but not the whole thing. And at the end of the day, you really shouldn't just implicitly trust us. And I realize I'm telling you that as I'm sharing a tool that isn't open source, it isn't signed, all of those sorts of things. There's a lot of things you can do to be safe about these sorts of things. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you do have to trust the person that's releasing that tool. I'll assure you left and right that, I'm not doing anything with your data. I'm just, providing you access to these features.
Well, I'll jump in real quick and just say that I appreciate the blatant fact of just answering the difficult questions right off the bat. Because when I showed you guys the questions, I know you had to have rolled your eyes a little bit. When I wrote them, I know I did too, because it's the type of thing where it's like, okay, I get it, bring devs on, call us hackers. I understand. But it's just to alleviate, people are going to ask, have to get it out of the way. But the fact that you guys are willing to come on and just be honest about, what's going on and answer the question, I just want to say thanks for that. I appreciate that. I'm sure that goes a long way for people because you're the first people I've ever even talked to that are devs of this. So this is coming from somebody that's really, I have a lack of experience here, and I went to school for CSE, but I didn't complete the engineering, and I did Java, which sure as hell doesn't help us here at all, So it's You know what I mean? So I'm not a professional here, and I just appreciate the time. And I hope you guys, anyone in the YouTube comments and all that, please give them the respect they deserve as we discuss the difficult questions, because it is hard to come on and answer these type of questions, and they're doing it out of a service for the public. So just to help you out a little bit with that one as well. And so that's all for that question. There is going to be one other one that I think is probably a harder question to answer, which is, how does this happen with Plarium? That may be how you answer the hard question about how it handles with the people, but what's your interactions like when it comes to actually dealing with Plarium? Because there is some intellectual property issues, I would assume, and some issues with other people's coding and using source code that's not based upon your own in order to make products based off that, if I understand some low level of understanding. So maybe you could educate us a little bit on how that works.
Before they get into that, yeah, I don't have as much experience on this part because mine's not an app. Mine's a website, so I don't have the issues that everyone else has. So I'll let everyone else talk about this.
Fair.
I know. I'm going to make sure I jump in whenever I can. So if anyone wants to cut off, feel free. But when Callus kind of started the fire on the Mercy tool, which I think just about everyone made a video of.
Yeah, myself too.
Yeah. It kind of actually opened a door for some of us tool developers. We have a separate Discord that we all talk in, and which is to be transparent, is how we got here, right? And we've all worked with each other to try to figure out what the tools need, what people want, what we can do. We help each other out with code problems, even in tools that aren't ours. So saying that, when the Mercy counter thing happened, we reached out to Plarium roundabout way through Reddit. I made a nice little post on Reddit, and Oracle, which is one of their community reps, reached back out to us, and we've had kind of an open dialogue since then of some questions we've asked and answered, that we're waiting on them to get back to us on some things, which, it's Plarium. It could be tomorrow. It could be 2 years from now. But
may I ask, has it been something you've been waiting a while on?
There are definitely some answers we've been waiting a while on.
Okay. I won't prod too much on that. Just a little curious on the level of dialogue that is available between you guys, I guess, would be really where
I've had absolutely no contact with Plarium whatsoever. But everyone else has, I think.
All right.
And to be honest, I mean, that's what Callus and I were trying to hope to do, is to with our tools, take the brunt of the whole, deal with Plarium. That way, anyone who's using our tools for whatever they want, they know they'll be safe because we're the ones that are kind of at the stopgap. And there are some other developers in there that also have their own channels open with Plarium that are, one of the other developers, he actually asks Plarium every time he wants to add a feature, any single feature to his software. He asked him and make sure it's okay. And there are some things that he's told people, I won't do that. Plarium said no. We haven't run into I haven't run into those roadblocks. I don't know if Daniel has, but
now this question wasn't on the list, but it's something that comes to my mind as we discuss this, which is, how do you guys feel about the fact that you are essentially working in what is a public and legal gray area that's essentially assigned by Plarium and to be decided upon Plarium's actions at any given time? Would you guys much prefer clear, distinct guidelines, even if they were drastically harsher than your current scenario? Or would you prefer, maybe this is an unfair question, or would you prefer the gray area you are in where you're able to maybe poke the dragon a little bit and not get eaten, but it makes it difficult to know what you can really accomplish?
I'm gonna jump in there a little bit, which is
absolutely,
it definitely is a gray area. And we've talked to them actually specifically about, can we get a clearer picture? Can we get, do's and don'ts? And to be perfectly fair, as a company, it's not in their best interest to give us that. Because as soon as they do, they start kind of degrading their own terms of service because they're not honoring them. So the relationship thus far has mostly been them saying, we're okay with you doing these types of things, as long as you're not negatively impacting the player base, as long as, you're not stealing people's data or hacking accounts and things like that. So as long as the players don't have a problem with it in general, that has been their stance, is that's generally okay, as well as a few other guidelines like not going full on botting automation type of thing. But I think the tricky part is like Mercy Limit was an interesting case here because Mercy Limit didn't really give anyone an unfair advantage. It didn't really cause any problems in the game, as far as I can tell. Maybe it caused some, financial impact to Plarium, which, and I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, from the people I talked to, like it caused them to pull more shards, not fewer. But
I don't.
What's that?
Said, yeah, that's what I would think, is that they would make more money, people being able to see their shard mercy data, but
yeah,
probably thought the opposite.
So, all right. So that sort of answers that. I think one other thing I'd be a little bit curious about is in the scenario where something like the Mercy Tracker, since you bring that, because that's something that I have actually used. So I used your Mercy counter because I did make a video on it. And to be bluntly honest, I used it for the video and then I deleted it. But it's more out of like, I don't even play the game. I've had 10,000 energy on my main for like 4 months. People want me to give up the leadership of my own clan because I don't even log into the game. So it's that's my issue, right? But the actual Mercy Tracker itself, do you believe the removal was because of a financial incentive? And this was actually when we get into the technical parts here, this is one of the questions I wanted to ask. So I'll skip ahead a little bit since it's coming up in this one here, is that the actual Mercy Tracker itself, do you believe it was removed? And I guess you would know because you did the coding for it. Was it removed because there's some kind of IP, something in the code they don't want people to see or be manipulating and using? Was there something there? Or do you think it's weird because there's nothing here that can be used, in our opinion, from an IP-wise or even anything that makes sense, and it's just they must have not liked it for whatever reason?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more that latter of they didn't like it for whatever reason, whether it was financial or maybe they were getting support calls from people saying, hey, I'm owed a Mercy. Why am I not getting my Mercy? And, getting player confusion. I don't know. But as far as what they did, I mean, all it did was remove the data from what the server sends down to the client. The code that understands that is actually still in the game client.
I can see both of you nodding in agreement as well over here. You guys both feel the same way. Daniel does as well, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've heard them talk about it.
I think it was absolutely financial. There's the side from us that, it's the optimistic versus pessimistic, right? Like optimistically, you think, oh man, if they see that they're 60 away from the Mercy, they're going to buy 60 shards so that they can Mercy out this Lego. But then you've got like people like me who I don't want to spend a lot of money. I'm 180 away. Why would I ever buy shards if I'm so far away? So, I'm thinking that they wanted to view it in the sense of let's just protect our money and take that away. And that could be, pessimistic of me if you think so. But that's my feeling on it.
Realistic.
I think the one thing that touched on too, which is different from anything the other tools are doing, is it was information that was not immediately shown to the user in the game.
Yeah.
So pulling out champion data, pulling out artifact data and stats and all that stuff, like that's all stuff that you can see already. They don't have a Mercy counter in game. So that's one case where, it's really one of the only cases I can think of, short of some like the data mining people do for like chances and things like that for drops, is showing something that's not otherwise shown to the player.
This brings up one of the other interesting points on our list here, which is at what point does a third-party application, for instance, I'll call myself out here. I promote BlueStacks on my channel. People know it's a sponsor of my channel. It's one of the ones I financially benefit from and I use all the time, right? Really, it boils down to just being a very simple auto-clicker, somewhat laggy emulator, if I'm being honest. And that's what probably most of you would nod in agreement with too. I would think decent emulator, it gives you an auto-clicker, a little bit of a macro built-in. I say it's not cheating. My question to you guys is, at what point does third-party applications in your mind cross the borderline of cheating when the functionality continually gets improved? Is essentially being more efficient, if that's what the tool allows you to do, cheating? Or is cheating really passing the borderline of what's readily available to the most average user?
I don't think it's cheating in most cases. I feel like Plarium makes everything so hard on us, all this stuff we have to do every day, that we need these tools to get it all done every day. So aside from maybe speeding up the game for tournaments, that I consider cheating. But if besides that, everything's fair game to me.
Okay, fair response.
I think there's a clear line between things you could accomplish if you had enough time, right? If I was doing nothing with my life and just sitting down all day and clicking repeat, refill energy, go ahead, right? If you ignore that aspect of it, right? Auto clickers are probably the most gray area of all of this game. Most of what the tools we make do just pull data out of the game for some purpose, right? So in a general sense, I think is ignoring that obviously clicker gray area, most of what our tools do, I think it'd be hard pressed to find it cheating. Like, just you could do the same thing by taking screenshots on your phone, like of every champion or every artifact or dungeons, whatever. Clicking, obviously, none of us here make a clicker, so that's probably a different gray area. Yeah. But we could go into that. I guess
I use them all the time.
Yeah, I definitely use them. Well, I think Plarium has given pretty blatant statements that they're okay with auto clickers as long as they're the basic auto clicker. I mean, the issue
more though, because like RSL helper, like they proved everything that he's done, and that's the best auto clicker there is.
Yeah, from what I've heard, that people tell me consistently to use that one, but I just kind of make it a real easy policy. I stay with the sponsor stuff because it makes me the most money.
Yeah, it's a wise policy.
Can't argue with that.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing we do actually talk about a lot in like this developer Discord that we have is about trying to make sure that everything we're building and empowering other players to use is not crossing that line of cheating. That's part of the discussion around me open sourcing the toolkit code. Those are things like we talk about, hey, maybe we could do this thing. Hey, this is a little gray. Do we actually want to build something that does this and release it to players? So it's actually a pretty common topic for us to talk about and kind of talk about where that line lies. And I think all of us are pretty firmly on the side of like there's lines you don't cross.
So speaking of topics that you guys talk about fairly frequently, I'm assuming the love of development is something that brought you guys together, and the love of Raid is what brought you guys together. I mean, that's what keeps me in the community. I'm sure you guys have seen enough of my videos that you agreed to come on the channel, which again, I thank you for. So you probably know I tend to rage against the machine a little bit if we're being honest, but yet I stay in the community. So why am I here? I'm assuming it's the same thing with you guys. You like what you do.
Absolutely.
You find your community. Yep. So what I want to ask you is, from what I've seen in most people who stay together in the community or have a real love for it, they more times than not have a common denominator of what brought them into the community, or some sort of fun and enjoyment that has a similarity between people. So really, this is just a really high-level philosophical, pseudo-intellectual way of saying, what made you guys start?
Start playing Raid or start working on the tools?
A little bit A, a little bit B. I mean, what brought you into the development of where you're at now? What really was the driving factor besides sitting down, playing Raid, and then saying, I'm going to begin working in the development part of the community?
All right. So for me, yeah, my buddy Hell Sorcerer got me to start playing the game, and then I was just all in after that, and then had to use sites like Ayumi Love to find which champions were good, and it was infuriating not being able to see their portrait images and everything when searching for champs. So I knew I could do better. So I just make my own site.
Okay.
And it all grew from there.
Better mousetrap then, huh? All right. How about Callus? How about you, my friend? What made you get into this?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it started with a little bit of seeing some of the other tools that had started to come out and kind of getting some ideas there that, hey, there's a lot of things we could do to help players and make things easier, whether it be, your optimizer or, just pulling out your champion data and things like that. But doing that, getting all that data out takes a lot of work and know-how of kind of reverse engineering the game. So for me, it was kind of this desire to help other people who might just know JavaScript, for example, or just work in Excel or whatever the case may be able to use that data, be able to create additional tools and things like that. Like, it shouldn't be something that only a few of us are capable of doing. So for me, like, being able to democratize that capability of playing around with the different data in the game and being able to be creative and do new things with it, I think is, kind of one of the things that drives me as a developer in general.
Okay. Thanks for your answer. And last but certainly not least here, Voltaic.
Yeah. So I started playing Raid after watching another streamer. I'm what you call a nerd. I actually play Magic pretty regularly. I've been playing Magic since it came out, and one of the Magic streamers I follow, Jeff Hoagland, he got a sponsored spot, one of the Twitch bounties.
Let's play Raid.
Let's play Raid.
Yeah.
Started playing through him. He set up a section in the Discord for his channel, and met a whole bunch of the people in there. So I started through there, and eventually, as you do, you start taking the game more seriously. We were trying to, crush the clan boss a little easier. And I thought, well, it'd be cool if I built this like optimizer, right? So we could get our gear to the right spots, and that'd be great. And I started working on it because nerd. And I've been programming for so long that it's just, I don't even look for other things. I just start creating whatever I need. And nobody really had an optimizer out there that I could see at the time. So I tried to figure out how to grab the data out of RAID. And someone else had already started doing that part and open sourced it. So I branched off of it, started adding other data pieces that I wanted. And it just kind of went from there. And I like to call myself a person who builds tools for other people who build tools. So, I think I mentioned it at the very beginning. I hate making things pretty. I hate, making good user interfaces. So yeah, it works, and that's good enough for me. So
that brings up.
So that's where I'm at.
That brings up one question I have for all three of you here, which is that I'm sure each one of you have to kind of lean on other developers in the community, because you said people build tools for other people to build tools and etc. So I'm sure it makes it great because there's lots of opportunity to work with other people, but does it not also make it difficult to have to rely on the quality of basically every other person down the chain's work in order to ensure the coding of your product works? Do you find it often difficult to make your items work with having to deal with all the other, links
I don't find it difficult. I feel like I just work with what is available. So for RAIDEXTRACTOR, for example, he's just makes it so I can export all the JSON data from my account, and then you can upload it into my website. And then I love making stuff pretty. So I love making it so you can view all of your champions there and everything, all your equipment and masteries and filter, all that stuff. And couldn't have done any of that without the RAIDEXTRACTOR.
Would you say that's your favorite part of doing it then? You say you like making things pretty and all that. You seem pretty enthusiastic about it. What would be your favorite part of what you do?
Yeah, definitely making stuff pretty. I like designing websites and making them look really slick.
How about for you, Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think well, so the first question, about kind of working with all these other devs and different people building different things, I think there's something really good about it. Inevitably, there's going to be a challenge when you're using something somebody else built, and you have to, you might run into an issue where they have a bug or something like that. But at the same time, you have people who care about the data, you have people who care about the visuals, and we can kind of come together and build cool things together and kind of each operate in our own wheelhouses, which I think is really great. So I think, Voltaic and Chris's website is like a perfect example of those two things kind of coming together. I mean, for me, I think as far as what do I enjoy the most out of it, it's that end developer piece, kind of similar to what Voltaic said earlier, is just like making tools for tool devs.
Would that be your favorite part of Voltaic, is making tools for tools devs?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm what you'd probably call a big data nerd. I'm in my day job, I'm a software developer. So
Okay.
a lot of what I do is, moving data between databases, doing calculations everywhere, trying to spit out and transform data where people need it. So doing a tool like what I do, converting from, RAID into something that other people can use is just like, that is exactly what I love doing, is just putting it out there for people, and letting them do what they want with it.
So I'm sitting here trying to think of what is an excellent segue for this next question. That's the hard part. I'm doing good, all these great segues, jumping around from one div part to another, and this one I just don't have a segue for it. But you know what I'm going to ask? I'm going to ask, so why you guys keep doing it? Is it basically the love stays the same? I mean, there's some issues I've heard that got brought up, or is it kind of you guys still the same love for it's there? You're going to keep doing it for a while, you think?
Developer you talk to is a masochist. We just keep hitting our head against the wall. It's the truth.
Yeah, I don't think I would still be playing RAID if it wasn't for developing the tools. I feel like that's what's keeping me playing.
Okay, the love of the development.
I think I'd be the same.
I can honestly say I have completely fallen out of love with RAID. So it's an interesting question.
Wow. Okay.
Because I don't know what drives me. There are days when I'll tell you, I just got off vacation. We tried to schedule this call actually probably around me, I think, because I was on vacation until yesterday, and didn't open RAID once, not for a week, didn't touch it,
Man.
Which I'm sure is probably crazy to a lot of people that actually play.
Yeah, it's crazy to me.
But a lot of what drives me to do things for this is because I just want to help people with whatever they do, and if I have the availability to do it or the knowledge, then I would love to. Half of the time I sit in the developer Discord and I try to answer questions, or I shit post a lot too. So let's be honest about that. But a lot of what drives me, like I said, is just getting that out there for people. Not knowing that not everybody's going to trust us because our tools have such insight into their account. I'm sure there's data in there that Plarium really should secure, and we've told them about some of it before, and it's not like it's a state secret. I mean, one of the things that I think probably shouldn't be publicly available is your purchase history, right? Well, they finally put that into the Plarium launcher, so I guess it's not that big of a deal anymore, but it was for a while. So that's what drives me. It's just, if it's there, why can't we access it? Why shouldn't we have access to it? And if they don't want it, they should tell us instead of overnight removing it. They should just tell us, don't touch this or we'll take it out.
So by referring to the overnight removing it, I'm assuming you're referring to the mercy counter, for instance. And by that, I'm going to assume they didn't give you prior warning, which kind of leads me into my next question, which is how often do these patches influence, your maintenance schedule on, this is probably a fairly obvious self-answered question here, but the point being, these patches, are they really your product all the time to break it down? Does it make it hard to do what you do? These patches change what you guys got to do fairly often, or is it not very often break the core components?
I think with any developers, anything we have to do manually, we will automate. I think we've seen that process happen over the last 6 months, I'd say. So every time the game client updates, we have to update our tool because different things in the game data change, they move around. Well, yeah. That's a good point. But those things move around, so we need to rebuild our tool. We need to recalculate where different things are stored in the game and things like that. And for the most part, that's automated now, but you still have to go through the process of pulling down the latest build of the game, running another build of your tool, updating all those offsets, and then releasing it, and everyone has to go download that new update.
And then you have to hope that there's not too many errors, I'm assuming, and then you have to try to diagnose the errors and yada, yada. So how many errors do you experience? Like, Chris, for instance, with your website, right? Let me ask you this question in particular. How often the errors that you experience are user errors versus errors that are innate with the coding, for instance, or errors that are, on your side? Do you experience a lot of user-related problems when it comes to feedback? Because I'm a YouTuber, so the way I'm looking at this is the way I get my feedback is, I get people who flame me, and I get people that say I love you, and I'm a huge fan, love everything you do. It's one or the other, right? So it's that's how I, it's okay, here's the negative feedback on here, here's that. So the only way I can really understand this is you have the users, right? And you have, either you made an error in the code or the users made an error, and I'm assuming there's a pretty good amount of user error that happens that you have to deal with.
Yeah, there's a little of that. And the opposite. I'll have my own errors, and I'm not perfect, so there'll be feedback that I'll get that I'll have to fix something. But yeah, sometimes it'll be they're just not understanding how the code works, or they didn't read my about page. The common one is the book indicators. People don't understand those exactly, how the rarity doesn't match up with the rarity of the champion. Throws people off.
I see both of you guys nodding, so it kind of sounds like pretty much you're in agreement with that then. Is there any, one question I actually was really excited to ask you guys, and I hope it's a good question, I thought it was, which is there any technical information or anything that you guys find particularly exciting that you're just really dying to share? Is there anything that you think would be interesting to know that maybe you haven't, told the general raid public yet? Doesn't have to be some game-changing thing, just something you're interested in.
I got something I'm working on.
All right, let's hear about it.
Working on a way to share your team, so you can select each champion, select 5 champions, and it displays them all with all their equipment and all their information, their masteries, and their stats. That was an idea that Luke gave me, and almost done with it.
Okay, it's a way to share builds fairly quickly, stuff like that, show your team
composition. And take a screenshot of it all and just share the screenshot.
Oh, that's pretty nice. Okay. That's great. You guys have a feature you're excited for, an upcoming feature? It doesn't have to be an upcoming feature, but just something you're excited to share.
For me, I'm constantly in the middle of rewriting everything. So one of the big things that I'm working on is providing a better way for people to kind of integrate. So with the version 2 of Raid Toolkit, you're going to be able to basically, if you know how to create any kind of website, you know how to do web UI, you can create things that'll actually render inside of the tool, and you can use that data and all that sort of thing.
Excited.
What's that?
So excited about this. It's been teasing me for months.
Yeah, so you'll be able to load your data directly out of the Raid Toolkit into Chris's site, for example. Or, I'd love to, get hooked up with some of the other tool creators out there. Like I'd love to see the clan boss simulator be able to just pull the speeds right out of your account. So you don't have to go type in all that stuff, all your gear sets, all that sort of thing. Like the tool already knows the true speed. Like, let me just dump it in there. So looking forward to kind of building some partnerships with more tool devs to kind of host it all in one place.
Deadwood.
Sorry, go ahead.
So we just got Deadwood in the dev server.
But I mean, one big thing about that to me that I'm really passionate about is we have all these different tools out there, and they all do different things, and that's awesome. But with all that fragmentation, like you have to trust so many different developers. And this would be a way to start creating a way for people to create tools on top of the data that don't expose you to any additional risk beyond like the core tool you're installing. So RAID Toolkit only gives them access to a certain amount of data. They can't run anything else on your computer. It's all in that sandbox. And then, you don't have as many opportunities for somebody to take advantage. So that's one of the big things I'm excited about, starting to hopefully bridge that gap a little bit.
Okay. I'll jump right off of that too. I mean, the development on my tool has gently, we'll say, stalled. And not for any lack of, like, not because I'm not really playing the game. That's not actually the reason. I'm kind of waiting for Callus, because what I want is the same thing. I kind of want to unify all of our tools under kind of one nice umbrella so that, and this goes back to that trust issue you asked about. If we can all start working from the same kind of base tool, and we'll use Toolkit as a great example, it can give us the data we need. He can worry about that interface with Plarium, or we as a developer group can worry about that interface. But then the users know that this is the tool that's to be trusted, or this is the founder of the tool that should be trusted, right? Because if everything's building off of that, and you know that tool only spits out trusted data, then there's a lot less worry about, is it going to hack my account? Is it going to steal my data? Whatever. So that's kind of the thing I'm actually hoping to build for soon, especially now that I'm kind of back off vacation. I'm refreshed. I'm kind of thinking I might just jump in and help him a little bit towards that effort.
Yeah.
So what does the ideal situation look like for you guys in relationship between you and Plarium? Is the current relationship one that you believe is going to be beneficial in the future? Are you hoping to accomplish a better one? Is there anything you're trying to accomplish out of this interview today that you believe might help? What would the future hopefully look like for you guys if it's going well? What do you want to see happen?
I'll jump in and start there. I mean, they've already got that established content creators program, and I don't know a lot about it. I know you know a lot more since you were in it. But if there were something more similar to that would give us that open channel. I mean, right now our channel is literally only through Oracle. So we ask Oracle questions, and they have to go ask their various teams, and it's just like a waiting nightmare, right? Like if I want to add, I don't know, extraction of Doom Tower information, like a more approved extraction, let's say, we would theoretically ask Oracle, and then Oracle would have to get back to us someday. Which, in a game like this, things move fast, right? Like they're adding new champions every month.
All the time, yeah.
So if we have to wait even a couple days, then why are we doing those kinds of things? So I personally would think that one of the big things we would want is that really clear open channel for quick interaction. This is where we're at. This is what we want. Is this okay? Is this not?
Seems to be the agreed upon kind of surmise there.
Yeah,
with that.
Maybe just any interaction in my case.
I'm sorry, what was that? I didn't quite catch that.
Maybe just any interaction in my case, since I've never even talked to Plarium.
Oh, yeah. Just getting acknowledged by them would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, no.
You just have to put data out there they don't like. They'll talk to you.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go, man.
They'll find you.
Make
Not on the
make
radar
a
yet.
wave. Your boat will be noticed pretty quickly there.
Yeah, I think the one thing I'd add to what Voltaic said was, like early on in our discussion with them, one of our points to them was like, you could expose this data. Like, you have all the data on the server. You could provide a service where we can query this data in a safe way, where we don't have to deal with the user's client or do any of this type of stuff. They don't have to install anything on their computer to do it. And it didn't sound like they're opposed to the idea, but it's a lot of work to build something like that. But eventually getting to the point where Plarium is simply just saying, hey, these are the things you can access and here they are. Go do your thing. Like, that would be even better, because then we don't have this gray area. Like, there are other games out there that have that same capability. There's a ton of them. So it's nothing new, and then you don't have this gray area with the terms of service or anything like that. You can just build something feeling confident that you're not breaking any rules with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, as we wrap up here, then, I don't want to take too much of your guys' time. I'll give you an opportunity. Do you have any questions you want to ask me while you're on here? Any topics you would like to very quickly bring up at the end or mention here? And then we'll get into where the people can find you and how they can support you if they're already using your products.
No questions from me.
No questions? Great. Then what we can do, if there's none, is we have I was going to bring up one or two basic questions that were from the audience, which will, we had one here in particular that I wanted to ask, which is...
I hope it's the one I've got up on my screen, because I highlighted one as I was watching the chat.
Oh, yeah?
Definitely want to talk about that one.
Yeah, you're talking about the Twitch chat. See, I pre-planned this part, and I had something planned here where I asked these people if they wanted to ask any questions here. So this one I'm going to answer for you guys, because I think you guys already did this one, which is Prodigo says, is there a possibility to be clear and concrete regarding all information you give? So far, it seems the player base only gets vague information, what they can or can't use, and therefore bans should not be possible at all. Now, I think for the most part, this has been addressed. I do believe. I don't think we talked about bans specifically, but I think we did sort of talk about cheating. Is this a quick topic either of you can address here? That we got the three of you. I know your RAID website, Chris, probably ain't going to get anyone banned anytime soon. So this would probably be people that are using localized, injecting or removal or however it works, right? Type stuff. I don't know. So
the only thing I feel like people might get banned for using is that cheat engine for speeding up the game. But like I said, I'm totally cool with using that if it's not in a tournament or something.
Yeah. I think in terms of all of the things I know of that other people have discovered so far, cheat engine and like the speed hacks are the main things that, start to cross that line. But yeah,
and I think even going along with that, I think at one point on the official Discord, they specifically mentioned the only other tool that I use aside from our developer group, the frame rate limiter, so that we can upgrade artifacts faster. That's probably bordering on the edge of cheating, right? But they've allowed it, so can't say it's cheating if they've specifically called it out, right? That's how it works.
Time.
I see. So where we're at then on the whole ban thing is that we're still in the whole gray area with basically, it's kind of, it's like we all kind of, we all have our own personal feelings and how we feel about cheating and all that. But as far as the actual from Plarium banning, we don't have just the official word on it quite yet. Let's see here. Oh, here's one. Can they make hotkeys for us so when we auto scroll to the end? Example, when we're in the sparring pit, can we go straight to the bottom where the bruise begins? We don't have to keep scrolling every time. Same goes for the other areas where scrolling exists. This sounds like something this guy's actually talking about the actual RAID devs. I'm not quite sure that this is something you guys could implement into a game now, is it?
It sounds something similar to something I've asked RSL Helper to do, but I think that Plarium put the kibosh on it.
Yeah, I know that.
Sorry, go ahead.
I know that Click was going to do something too when he was maintaining OMG Click all the time, and I think that was his response that he got too, was that Plarium has specifically said no, we want people to actually quick to the end of things.
Yeah, they want it to be a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And you said you highlighted one question that you want to answer yourself. Do you want to read that one and answer it yourself? Did you like that one and want to read it? Then I have one last one for you.
Sure. So in Twitch chat, Eric OneHive.
Oh, Eric.
He said he looks like he's a sub, right? So he said one of them mentioned that they were able to get access to so much info that accounts could be hacked with it. If they're able to access it, could any hacker with malicious intent? Now, I don't know personally. I know there's a lot of data in there. I've looked at an actual ton of the data structures. As far as I can tell, I don't think I can take over an account. I do know there are some other things that we could get that Plarium definitely wouldn't want us to expose, but as far as I can tell, I don't think we can get anything that we could hack the account. Maybe Callus would know a little bit more. He's dug a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I can touch on that a little bit, as I've looked at all those same things that Luke's talking about, and I think the for example, the game is connected to their servers and it's talking and it's authenticated and all of that sort of thing, but that's a persistent connection. So you could go get their security info. If you try connecting to the server with that, the server's going to say, I'm already talking to you, go fuck off. So as far as I know, there's no way to actually take over an account just by running a tool side by side. The one thing that I do want to encourage everybody to do is go turn on two-factor auth. You can't be hacked if you have two-factor auth on, because it's going to have to ding you. You're going to have to give that second verification that, it's me trying to log in.
Great point mentioning that, by the way. I just want to say thank you for, I'm just saying, great point for mentioning the two-factor authentication. And I appreciate you mentioning that one, because one of the questions on the list was, do you guys have any safety tips for people? And I forgot to mention that one. So good pointing that out.
The other one that I'll throw in there, since you brought it up, is don't run the game as administrator. So many people say, the tool's not working. I had to run the tool as admin. It's because you're running the game as admin. Don't run either. There's no reason for the game to be run as administrator. There's no reason for the tool to be run as administrator. So don't open yourself up to that. There's no reason for it.
So to touch a little bit, obviously people are going to want me to touch on the point you guys mentioned here about the amount of information that's available the RAID would not want you to disclose. And I'm not going to try to ruin your relationships with Plarium here, but I will ask you is the question is, do you think that there is enough of what seems to be plain text type of data in there for anyone with malicious to attempt or whatever to look at it and do some sort of social engineering to damage the other person? Is there enough valid information that people should be worried about the security of their account based upon the way Plarium treats their data?
Not from what I've seen. Even I mentioned it a little earlier, you can get the purchase history. They've even masked enough of that data so that I can't get your credit card. I can see the amounts, I can see the date you spent it on and the package you bought, but I can't get any personally identifiable stuff. So it's not like I can, phone home and download your data and send it to me.
But you can't get stuff transaction confirmation numbers or anything like that, because they do ask for that in support as proof if you've owned the account. So the things you're mentioning could be used as potentially viable options.
I will say that it does show the last four of the card in the purchase history. If you use a card, if you pay with something like PayPal, it doesn't show that. But it does show some of your card information. It does not show the confirmation number, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
It's actually not much different than what's already visible in Plarium Play. So
it's almost a basic receipt, basically. You would dispose in the garbage
exactly.
can or something is
exactly.
sort of what has remained there. It's a digital receipt.
That's one of the things we've brought up with Plarium, is saying, this is one of those kinds of data that would make sense to not send down to the client because it's not used for anything.
Yeah, digitally shredded. There's no reason to have it.
They remove that. The game doesn't use it on the client. The server owns that decision. So it doesn't need to be there, so just don't send it.
Now, I will say that one of the things that I find interesting is that us in the developer Discord, we're real open with everybody. Whenever we find a new data structure or something cool, we're sharing it. That said, there are obviously devs that aren't in the dev Discord that do things. And you say malicious intent. I guess there's two types, right? There's external to the game and there's internal to the game. There's definitely data structures in there that if someone wants to get more information about how the game works or how they could cheat, there's definitely game data in there. And they've patched a couple of them in the past, but there's still plenty in there. And we talk about it in there all the time that we will never expose some of this because it would create a bad experience.
To be honest, I think I'm aware of maybe a couple of these type of things before as well. Because I don't know if before. That's probably a topic for another video, to be honest, on another day. I've taken quite a bit of your time. And what I'd like to do then is wrap up with a final question here, which is going to lead into the final point, which is that RSL Helper, which is, I know none of you guys, but it's one of the third-party apps here. He says he changed it and he changed the game for him. He probably would quit without it. So the question he wanted to ask is, how can users best support these devs so they can continue to make these third-party applications? Then he asked me directly, why can't I directly link to your website? Is Plarium prohibiting me, or you just want to avoid some liability? To be honest, I'm trying to avoid liability. With all of these things, I like to bring people on. I like to open up the curtains, show the man behind the curtain, say, these are these guys. They speak for themselves. Here's their opinion on what's going on. Obviously, you can see the products they've developed right next to all of their names, and you're free to find them. And you guys are free at this time to post any of your social media or say whatever you would like about where people can find and support you if they're familiar with your products or find and enjoy them. So how about we start with Daniel, Chris, Luke, in that order. You guys want to let the people know where they can support you at.
Yeah, so for me, honestly, supporting simply by using the tool, giving feedback, is all really the support I ask for, because knowing that people are getting use out of it and getting benefit, that's the reason I do it. So, yeah.
Okay.
For me, I do need help. I could use some help. I have a contribute link at the top of my website. So go to raidchamps.com and you click on there, and I got links. There's a buy me a pizza button at the bottom of the site. You got options. I got a Patreon that's nobody's ever subscribed to.
I think I make $4 a month off my Patreon, to give you an idea.
I'll be honest. The best way to get people to support the tool that I make is actually for the devs to use it. I love Chris's site. I actually use it all the time. That's why I gave him the idea that I did, because I selfishly had an ear on the developers. So give me what I want. And you can be sure that I'll be tossing some pizza his way, because I want the share my team tool. That is a thing that I've wanted forever. So, please use. Please use some of these guys' tools. There's plenty of people building tools out there. Even if all it is putting a comment out there, and saying, "Hey, thanks for the tool." I want to see that kind of stuff, not just for me, but a lot for people who use our tools. Just to say it's worth spending our time on, right? So that's what I'm looking for.
Okay. Well, with that being said, thanks so much, guys. I'll put a plug to everyone's social media, Twitter, whatever they give me in the bottom, and the website, because I can plug that one too on there as well. So love you guys all. Thanks for coming. And I honest, again, one more time, you guys were flat out as open honest as I could have really asked. As far as I'm aware, all of you guys tackled that pretty head on. And, I really appreciate that. And I honestly believe that people are going to receive that pretty well. So I thank you. I just want to say thanks for that. And please, in the comments, give them the credit they deserve for coming on here and spending a good amount of time to answer some difficult questions. And I really appreciate that. Any last words, guys? Because we're wrapping up here and going right out the door.
Yeah, thanks for the platform.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks.
If you made it all the way to the end, first of all, thank you. Second of all, I would like to thank once again each and every participant in the interview today for coming out and their transparency and attempt to answer all of our questions, regardless of the level of intelligence of the question. With that being said, if you enjoyed this style of interview, consider leaving a comment letting us know your thoughts about the interview, how I was as an interviewer, as well as maybe some changes we can make to make it a little bit better. Do leave some positive feedback in there as well, so that way I don't rage like a baby, and I will see you guys all on the next video.